Picture this: Saturday morning, coffee still hot, and your doorbell rings like it's the apocalypse. You open up to find the HOA president herself, Meredith Langley, blonde helmet hair, navy suit sharp enough to cut glass, standing on your porch with a guy in a suspiciously shiny badge and two clipboard zombies behind her. "Mr. Bennett," she purrs, all fake concern and Sunday school smile. "We're here about your critical zoning violations. You have 24 hours to fix them or face the consequences." She slaps down papers that scream official, until you notice the county seal looks like it was printed on her home inkjet at 3 a.m. Total bill for compliance: $9,200. She taps the number twice, like she's revealing the Holy Grail. "Your vegetable garden? Agricultural use, strictly banned. That house color? Not on our approved beige palette. And that privacy fence? It blocks sight lines for community safety. We're doing this for everyone, Ryan. We're family here." The fake officer shifts, badge glinting wrong under the morning sun. Her treasurer and secretary nod in perfect sync, like wind-up dolls programmed for maximum smug. I, Ryan Bennett, 62, retired civil engineer who spent 30 years spotting crooked blueprints, didn't slam the door. I just smiled back, the kind of smile that says I've seen better forgeries on kindergarten art projects. "Officer Davis, was it? Mind walking me through the exact statute numbers?" The guy's collar suddenly got real tight. Meredith's perfect smile twitched exactly once. That was my first clue. By Monday, the real harassment machine was rolling. A genuine code inspector, real clipboard, real measuring tape, showed up because of an anonymous complaint about my garden shed. "Permit looks filed, but the final sign-off's missing in our system," he muttered, slapping a red tag on my front door like it was a parking ticket from hell. Tuesday morning, I woke to chainsaws. 3 guys in matching Oakwood Haven professional services shirts were hacking 15 feet of my mature privacy hedge into mulch. The supervisor didn't even flinch when I stormed out in my robe. "HOA work order, sir. Over height vegetation. Safety issue." He handed me a card and drove off like he'd just done me a favor. Wednesday, the process server found me at the hardware store, loudly, serving papers for a $2,400 unpaid assessment lien. Thursday, my mailbox exploded with certified letters while neighborhood Facebook groups lit up with anonymous posts. "Difficult neighbor refusing to cooperate. Property values at risk." By Friday, Mrs. Patterson from down the street, the sweet old lady I'd carried groceries for all winter, wouldn't meet my eyes. "Meredith showed us pictures. Is everything okay, dear?" Parents were steering kids away like my yard had landmines. I didn't yell. I didn't call the news. I just started documenting. Cameras rolling, timestamps perfect, every conversation recorded. Because 30 years of reading fine print taught me one thing: bullies like Meredith always overplay their hand. And somewhere in those county archives I was quietly pulling at night, the real story was waiting. The original 1987 subdivision plat didn't lie. My half-acre lot, the one I bought fair and square after the developer went bankrupt, had never been deeded to the HOA. Yet their sparkling clubhouse, the Olympic-sized pool, the tennis courts, the parking lot, even their precious office building sat square on my property like they owned the deed. No easements. No permits. No payment. Just 30 years of quiet theft wrapped in community standards and monthly dues. Meredith didn't know I knew. She kept tightening the noose. More complaints, more inspectors, more whispered campaigns about how that Bennett fellow was selfishly endangering everyone's retirement dreams. At the emergency HOA meeting, she stood at the podium like a televangelist, voice dripping honey. "We simply want reasonable compliance with basic safety standards, folks. Ryan's refusal is putting all of us at risk." The room clapped like trained seals. I sat in the back row, silent, watching her bask in the applause while the treasurer, Tom, shifted uncomfortably. He'd already seen the numbers that didn't add up. That weekend I met with my old buddy Mike Anderson, county surveyor extraordinaire. 3 days later, his GPS gear painted a picture worth $1 million in damages. The HOA office alone covered 75% of my land. Their septic system was dumping straight into a storm drain that technically belonged to me. Environmental violations stacked like Jenga blocks. And the financials? Meredith's consulting firm had been siphoning 35 grand from reserve funds through creative invoicing while the HOA owed its management company 45 grand in back fees. I did what any quiet engineer with a grudge would do. I bought the debt. $25,000 wired on a Monday morning turned me into the HOA's biggest creditor overnight. Suddenly, I owned their office building, their pool, their entire fantasy of control. Meredith found out Tuesday. The emergency board meeting turned into a circus. She stormed in wearing her best power suit, voice shaking just enough to be delicious. "This is harassment. You can't just buy our debt like it's a yard sale." I leaned back in my folding chair and answered softly, "Actually, Pamela." "Sorry, Meredith. I can." And I just did. "Now about that $9,200 fine you tried to stick me with." The room went graveyard quiet. For the first time, she looked small. By Thursday, the county hearing was set. Meredith arrived with 3 lawyers and boxes of paper like she was going to war. She still thought she could spin this. She opened with her greatest hits: public safety, community precedent, decades of peaceful coexistence. Mr. Bennett is deliberately obstructing infrastructure that serves 80 families. The commissioners nodded along until I stood up. I didn't shout. I just laid the 1975 survey on the projector, then the 1987 plat, then the GPS maps showing every single HOA amenity sitting on my private land. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a Mexican wave. Meredith's face went the color of old drywall. But I wasn't done. Mike Anderson took the podium next, 2 decades of county engineering in his voice, and dropped the $750,000 unpermitted construction bomb. Then the EPA rep calmly explained how the illegal septic tie-in threatened the whole aquifer. Finally, I slid across the debt purchase papers and the forensic accounting report showing 35 grand embezzled straight into Meredith's personal consulting business. The commissioner didn't even let her lawyers finish their postponement plea. Request denied. Environmental violations require immediate action. In 6 brutal minutes, the entire empire crumbled. HOA operations suspended. Criminal referral issued. Office building sealed with bright yellow tape while residents stood outside in stunned silence. Meredith tried one last dramatic exit, clutching her folder like a life raft. "You've destroyed everything we built." I looked at the EPA photos, the shocked neighbors, the sealed clubhouse. She'd ruled like a queen. "No, Meredith. You built everything on stolen land with stolen money." I just showed the receipts. County deputies escorted her out. Her perfect hair finally looked messy. 6 months later, the neighborhood looked different. New management company, real audits, clear property lines, and a legal lease that paid me 2 grand a month for the land the amenities actually sat on. Kids still splashed in the pool, now with proper permits and my name on the easement papers. Property values climbed 20% once the scandal dust settled. Meredith? License revoked, restitution ordered, house sold at a loss, moved out of state. Last I heard, she was selling essential oils on Facebook. The quiet guy who just wanted to grow tomatoes in peace had flipped the entire board. So here's the question that still keeps this neighborhood up at night. Was Meredith Langley the real villain for stealing land, embezzling dues, and terrorizing everyone who questioned her? Or was I the bad guy for refusing to stay silent and making the whole perfect community face 30 years of lies? If your HOA president suddenly demanded 9 grand for your garden while her office sat on your backyard, without permission, would you call the bulldozers? Or would you do exactly what I did? Drop your answer below. I read every single one. And remember, next time that doorbell rings on a Saturday morning, check the county seal first. You never know whose kingdom you're really standing on.